Think you know Merlin? The wise old wizard, pointy hat, spells and all that? Well, forget that version. This Merlin, from the Pendragon Cycle, is part druid, part Atlantean, and his story is way more epic than most people realize. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll see why this Merlin stands on his own as a legend. Alright, so first, where and when does this story even take place? We're in post-Roman Britain. The empire's shadow is fading, the legions are gone, and what's left behind are warring tribes, ambitious chieftains, and deep spiritual unrest. According to Stephen Lawhead's Pendragon Cycle, this is the tense, myth-soaked backdrop for Merlin's origin. The version we're talking about is also being brought to the screen in the Pendragon Cycle Rise of the Merlin, a Daily Wire Plus series based closely on Lawhead's books. The Merlin you see there is rooted in this vision: historical grit, Celtic myth, lost civilization, and Christian faith all colliding in one character. Let's dive into Merlin's beginnings. His birth name is Merlin, and he is the son of Taliesin, a druid bard, and a princess from lost Atlantis. In Lawhead's universe, Atlantis isn't just a throwaway name. It was once a flourishing civilization whose destruction sends survivors out into the wider world. Merlin's mother is one of those survivors, and that past never really disappears. Because of this dual heritage, druidic on one side and Atlantean on the other, Merlin stands between two ancient streams of wisdom and power. Taliesin himself is more than a father figure. He is bard, druid, and visionary. And Merlin grows up absorbing both his father's Celtic lore and the hidden knowledge carried out of a drowned world. So why load one person with that much background and potential? In Lawhead's Merlin novel, Merlin is born for a specific mission: to help bring about what is called the Kingdom of Summer, a brief golden age of unity and justice in Britain. He is not just a wandering wonder worker. His life is aimed at preparing the ground for Arthur Pendragon, the legendary king who will stand at the center of that age. To do this, Merlin is trained in three roles: seer, bard, and warrior. As a bard, he learns songs and stories that carry history, identity, and warning, tools he later uses to influence kings without drawing a sword. As a seer, he learns to read signs, dreams, and political currents so he can guide events rather than simply react to them. As a warrior, he learns to ride, fight, and survive, because in this Britain, any man who steps into royal courts and battlefields needs more than clever words to stay alive. It is not a smooth path. The books show him facing ordeals that nearly destroy him physically and mentally. Merlin's authority is forged through suffering as much as through study. Merlin's world is not just unstable, it is dangerous on every level. Politically, Britain is fractured. Tribal kings, invading forces, and shifting alliances constantly threaten any hope of lasting peace. Spiritually, there is a clash between old magic, prophetic visions, and the spread of Christianity, and Merlin is caught right in the middle of that tension. One of his most important opponents is Morgian, his half-sister in Lawhead's telling. She is bound up with darker strands of magic and ruthless political ambition, working closely with the forces that want to bend Britain toward corruption rather than renewal. Because Merlin is prophetic, every step he takes has a spiritual and moral weight, not just a tactical one. He constantly has to navigate choices where power, faith, and loyalty pull in different directions. One of the strongest beats in Merlin's arc is that he does not simply ascend in a straight line. he breaks. The pressure of his calling, the weight of his visions, and the brutality of real loss drive him into a period where he essentially becomes a madman in the wild. This is an old echo from Welsh tradition, the wild, raving Merlin. But Lawhead turns it into a character crucible. Merlin's collapse strips away illusions about his own strength. When he eventually comes back from that dark wandering, he returns less theatrical and more sober. A man who knows that even the most gifted prophet has limits, and that trying to control everything is a fast path to ruin. By the time Arthur comes into the narrative, Merlin is no longer a prodigy. He is a seasoned survivor. He has seen what happens to leaders who chase their own glory, and to kingdoms that forget justice. All those lessons are poured into how he shapes Arthur's rise. Merlin chooses where Arthur grows up, who influences him, when to shield him, and when to leave him to face consequences. Battles matter, but Merlin is always playing a longer game, forming Arthur into the kind of king who can hold together this fragile kingdom of summer for as long as possible, instead of burning it down for quick victories. He knows, perhaps better than anyone, that even this golden age cannot last forever. The waves that swallowed Atlantis will one day swallow Arthur's dream too. Not literally, but in the sense that every human order eventually passes. Merlin's goal is not to cheat that law of history, but to carve one clear, bright season of justice and peace before the dark returns. So in this retelling, Merlin is not the quirky spellcaster lurking in the margins. He is the hinge of the age, last heir of a drowned kingdom, product of druid lore, servant of Christ, and the architect of Arthur's Britain. Arthur will get the songs and statues, but the blueprint of that brief golden age lives in Merlin's head and heart long before the boy ever lifts a sword. That is the real twist of the Pendragon Cycle. The story of Arthur becomes, at its deepest level, the story of Merlin's gamble. That one man's vision and one generation's courage can change the fate of an island, even if only for a little while. And if you want to keep exploring this side of Merlin, the prophet, the warrior, and the survivor of a lost world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into this legend.